Great defeaters, new and old, welcome back to another episode, and I'm sure this is going to be a very spicy one of the breakdown with your host, BaseDaKID, Tony, that pugilist boy. We are the children of the game. Tony, hey, I can hear a lot of echo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That is me. Give me one.
All right, put yourself on mute, and I'll chat to the great defeaters. All right, Pete. So I'll do the roll call now. Me and Tony will exchange our normal pleasantries afterwards. So big up to Declan. He said he's taking over Tuesday nights. He said he retired from Monday night smoke because of football clashes, which I understand. It's clashes with football on Tuesdays as well. But he said he's here for that title. Philip Answer, big up to you. Muller, big up every time. Untraceable, we've got Fight Fan TV live in the place. Finn Black, I don't think I've seen that name before, so welcome to the show. Thank you very much for tuning in. Skyliner, the editor. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that maybe later on, Skyliner. Let's see. Dan the man, hardest working guy on X. Big up to you. Much love. You need to stop tagging me in that depressing Man United news, though. Like, stop it. You're better than that. Jam Down 187. Big up to you. Jay Lanks. Big up. G Chain in the building every single week. So bless ups to you as well. Daniel J Boateng. Stay blessed. Be real. Lee Cuxton, who I have never seen before, big up to you. Thank you very much for showing up. Peter Nyamoto, I've seen your name a few times. Big up, thank you very much for being here. Hopwise, as always, and Sunny Akinawo. Not seen you before, Sunny, so thank you for tuning into the show as well. Big shout out to Tony Lee. So yeah, big up to everyone. Are you now out of the chat, Tony? Can you talk? Right, how was your weekend? You're on mute.
My weekend was nice, carnival. I loved it. I gotta give credit to the organizers because, carnival's had years where it's had bad press. It's had struggles, financing, organizationally wise. I've been to pretty much every carnival there has been since I was alive. And I got to give credit to those people because year after year, they produce a fantastic show. But for, some idiots here and there, and when you consider how many people are there, you're going to get the odd idiot. It was a beautiful show. All the groups that were participating, I know a group that I work with, the 100 Black Men of London, were involved with Mahogany Sound this year. And many other people that I know were involved. It's clearly getting more out to the community. There are lots more links to different groups now doing stuff. So yeah, an amazing two days. I enjoyed both Sunday and Monday. I was at both days. I normally go to Panorama as well, but I didn't this year. But yeah, boxing action, we're going to get into it. And there was some good action. So let's get it cracking. Big up to Lee Cuxton, by the way, my co-trainer at Croygas Amateur Boxing Club.
Okay, big up to Lee. Also, Nicholas, that definitely looks like a new name to me. Big up to you. Thank you for being here. CS, Marge was an organizer. Okay, so big up to Marge. And Spoka D is in the building as well. So big ups to you. All right, cool. So, as is customary, it normally starts with a big show, then do a bunch of middle stuff in between, then we go and finish off with a big event and a big fight. So I guess what we'll probably do today is we'll start with the second quote-unquote big fight of the weekend, which was Jared Anderson against Andre Rudenko, and we'll kind of work our way backwards through the timeline until the end of the day. Now, there will be a few there's definitely one special guest coming on today. There may be more, but we're not going to say anything until that gets confirmed. But yeah, we'll get all of that sorted out. Tony, roll up the reel. Let's talk about Jared Anderson real quick, and let's go through the rest. There's a lot of dead air there, Tony. What are you doing?
There we go. So, Jared Anderson, I'm going to let you start. You go, because I'm normally the one who kicks off. I want you to go this week because I'm still trying to just find a couple of bits and pieces.
Oh Lord, I hate when you do that. All right, cool. Well, personally, I watched the fight. I didn't analyze this one. One thing I did notice though, he seems to do a lot better with shorter fighters as opposed to guys that either the same height as him or slightly taller. Especially, he still seems to be sort of backing out in straight lines, which is dangerous. But I guess against smaller fighters, he can get away with it because he's got enough athleticism to be able to sort of avoid the length of the shot. You're gonna have to go on mute, Tony, because I can hear myself echoing. And yeah, so that being said, he's, from what I saw, he did quite well in defending against Rudenko, because Rudenko was going for shots in the first sort of couple rounds. He was loading up quite a bit, but Jared Anderson was pretty much on the front foot. He was just a bit too quick for Rudenko. He employed a pretty good body attack at times. He was mixing up shots from the top from both southpaw and orthodox stance quite seamlessly, which was all nice to see. However, as we saw in that clip there, which I'm just going to put back on for the people, there were numerous shots in this one little salvo of shots that were straying crazily low to where they should have been. That's something obviously we're going to speak about a little bit later on, but the referee expressly said everything above the belt line is fine, but on or below the belt line is illegal. Yet for some strange reason, he's literally standing there, apart from the times when obviously Jared is turned away from him so he can't see it, but there's like numerous shots that are all going low on the hips, under the belt line, on the belt line. They're all, really, really low on that guard. And for some reason, the ref is not even motioning for him to keep the punches up, which is very, very strange. Or maybe that's just house fighter privileges. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, it's there and it's blatant for the half. There was a couple there that I thought Jared actually did a really good maneuver by spinning the referee or spinning around the referee, so he was blocking the shot, or he was spinning around the target so that the referee couldn't actually see the shots. But for all of those ones where the referee is clearly visible right there in front, there was all blatant fouls, and it would be up to the referee to explain why he allowed those, especially after all of the comments that he made at the start of the round, expressly talking about where is legal and where is not legal to shoot. But overall, Jared Anderson, I thought he'd get Rudenko out of there in 3 rounds, although that was probably me not respecting Rudenko as much as maybe I should have. That's only the second time he's been stopped, and neither time has he ever been knocked down or really badly hurt. He's just been flurried on, and obviously the ref has decided, all right, that's a bit too much. But no, it was a competent performance. He did what he needed to do. Ultimately, move on to bigger and better things. I think he called out Frank Sanchez straight after the fight, so that would be interesting if that was in fact his next bout. Although I don't know how feasible that will be, because Frank Sanchez currently is fighting on PBC shows with PBC. I don't know if that's a big enough fight for them to do a cross promotion, although they may not have enough for him, so they may decide to just kind of let him go across the street for that one. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that one, Tony. What have you got to say?
Okay, so it's really interesting, this fight, because it has one of the fighters is a Ukrainian fighter. Andrei Rudenko is Ukrainian, and it kind of meant that the sum total of the boxing that I watched on Saturday night contained a large number of Ukrainians. And interestingly, I was counting them off. It was like, oh, a Ukrainian's lost in the pro-Ukrainian fight. Oh, another Ukrainian has lost in the pro-Ukraine. And then it got to the co-main before a Ukrainian won a fight, or was that the filler fight that was put in between? And then it was like, oh, but the Ukrainians are 2-1 down here in their own hometown. So could this end up being 3-1 to Ukraine, to the other team in Ukraine's own backyard? Because, of course, it isn't in Ukraine. It's in Poland across the border, but closest point to where essentially Ukraine have got their thing. Interesting point also is, to me, I question why Rudenko was the next challenger. Because if you think about the fact that Jared Anderson recently fought Charles Martin, who to me has a much better place in terms of his position in the boxing hierarchy, then you've come down massively to fight Rudenko. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, but the reason for that is, number one, it was a quick turnaround. It makes sense because it coincides with that Ukrainian Independence Day, so you'll get a large Ukrainian audience to watch the fight for Top Rank. The same as whenever you put a Polish person on a UK card, you get a huge Polish audience either in attendance or watching. So it makes sense from that perspective. And also, they wanted to get rid of the quote unquote asterisks or the stink of the Charles Martin fight with the questionable, the crying and not getting the knockout, and get back to knockout ways to keep him motivated. So that's why the quick turnaround had an opponent that was of lesser quality.
So ultimately, I thought it was cannon fodder for Jared Anderson, and he went on to effectively treat Andre Rudenko as cannon fodder, because he literally had his way for the whole 4.5 rounds. He showed good footwork. I like the pivot off the front foot to the side of Rudenko to find shots. He clearly has been working on that strategy. I mean, we've seen it before, but he seemed to have it on point yesterday, or Saturday rather, and he clearly, showed off what he has learned. Approach work was good jab, good fundamentals at every stage of this particular fight. Never at any point did he find himself off balance, did he find himself taking shots unnecessarily, and he just let his hands go. So yeah, to me, it's a tune-up fight. I don't know what for. As you said, he did call out Frank Sanchez at the end of the fight, but to me, this was cannon fodder, and he ate that guy up for lunch.
All right, have you got any others on that card you want to talk about before we talk about a Jagbar and Kosovotsky?
So just quick shout outs, very, very quick shout outs to two very good up and comers who I've talked about pretty much every time I've seen them. 23 seconds long. This is, for those who don't know, Abdullah Mason, a very good fighter who is undefeated currently. He find it, I think he's 6-0, is it?
No, he was 9-0 with 8 KOs before the fight.
Yeah. So as you can see, then there's not a huge amount of action, but if you want to go and find that action, look up Abdullah Mason, very good fighter, one of Top Rank's highly ranked young fighters, because they're putting him on good cards. They're giving him slowly progression through the ranks. The other guy that I also want to give praise to is Bruce Shushu Carrington. Again, very quick bit of film from his fight. Again, a very young fighter, 19, 20. I'm thinking, but very good fundamentals, quick hands. In this clip, you can see he's actually got to the point where he's showboating against the opponent and saying, "Come on, fight me." And he just goes through the motion. Very good technique, exceedingly quick at finding shots in between the target. You can see almost like a Floyd-like Philly shell there, being able to see where the shots are and then turn them round into a very strong attack. So two guys there that were on the undercard that I think were worthy of a very quick shout.
Yep. I wasn't able to watch either of those fights, but I saw some of Shushu's one because it was on my top rank, but I didn't have a chance to go through the whole thing. But I like his tactics. I like his poise. He's always got a good stance, good footwork and movement. Hasn't got the greatest power, so I think he's sitting at about 50% KO in his 10 fights at the moment, which may cause problems down the line, especially seeing as he wants to kind of be more in the pocket, trading with people now as opposed to hitting and moving like he was a bit earlier. But yeah, he's got all the ingredients to be like a standout guy in the division. If he can either work on that power just a little bit or just, I guess, tailor those tactics, maybe to not do that against guys that are proven punchers, I definitely think he's got a future. But yeah, okay, so moving on to what was the co-main of that card, which was actually it was my most anticipated fight of the night, if I'm totally honest. And while it didn't deliver in the way that I wanted it to, it definitely had a lot of talking points, and that was FA Jagbar versus Jan Kosovotsky. Now, I'll let me start with this one, and I'll let Tony go afterwards. So, my pick was for Kosovotsky to win this fight. I've seen enough of his previous bouts to know the type of guy. He's very crafty, seems to like fighting against taller guys, knows how to time his entries and get on the inside. However, with regards to this fight, it basically capitulated from the second round. Now, in the first round, both of them was basically trading up. Kosovotsky was getting a lot of the better work. Jagbar was doing well behind his jab. His jab was looking crisper than it's looked in a little while. His movement was very good as well. So his footwork, he's definitely be improving that. But Kosovotsky was finding the angles and finding ways to get around him and to basically land that backhand. He was getting that backhand into play from quite early into the round. Then comes round two. And in round two, you've got Jan Kosovotsky on several occasions complain or at least motion to the referee that he's been hit low. Every time he did, I actually looked and I was like, yo, I'm looking at the shots as they're going in saying, yeah, that looks low. That looks low. He's looking at the ref, and the refs on one occasion, I think I did see the ref say, keep it up to a Jagbar. But then on several other occasions, that low blow, it literally, like, there was some that was just unchecked. There were some legitimate body shots, and from what I can see, when I watched it, I never saw him react badly to those body shots, the ones that were above where they need to be. There was one that he got in the side, in sort of the ribs, which he tucked up and he took quite well. There was one sort of to the chest. There was one to the sternum, and it all looked fine. But every time those shots were slipping lower than that, he would motion to the ref, complain, and the ref would just ignore him, basically. And so they ended up getting tangled at one point, and then it's like he done a sambo throw on him. And I thought, okay, so this is the start of them two and whatever antics are going to happen. And then lo and behold, he goes into another exchange with a Jagbar after that in the third round, where it comes through. He looks and motions to the referee again. He's in a clinch with a Jagbar. A Jagbar's thrown one punch, which has landed very low. Then he's thrown a second one. And at this point, and obviously Kosovotsky's actually, his facial expression is wincing at these. He's looked at the ref's not done anything. So at this point, he's just said, you know what? I'm taking the law into my own hands. And he hits a Jagbar with the most blatant of low blows that you're going to see these days. And it wasn't in, the breadbasket or anything like that. It was down in the crown jewels, and he angled and aimed for it. And then pushed the Jagbar off, and then just walked back to the corner like, cool, you don't want to do it, I'm gonna deal with this for you. It kind of reminded me a little bit of, or I don't know, everyone's upbringing is slightly different. So this is what my one was like. My parents will always say to me, if someone hits you, tell the teacher. They might even say, tell the teacher again. If the teacher don't do nothing, that's your time. And that's kind of, to me, what was basically happening with Jean Kosovotsky. Now, whether he was maybe feeling those shots more, he did. I think he maybe took a couple of backhands as well, which I don't think he liked. But ultimately, he may have been a case of, all right, seeing as you're not going to do anything, I'm going to do it instead. And I think at that point, he had totally forgotten, or he didn't care about whether he was going to win the fight or not. I'm not sure. He may have been in a case he thought to himself, you know what, I might, this ain't gonna go my way anyway, so I might as well just do what I need to do. But ultimately, in that third round, that happened. I think also in that round, a Jagbar, there was two occasions, one of which one of his shots rolled off of the elbow and went low. And there was another shot where it hit low, and the referee did say, "Stop! All right, keep it up." But he didn't obviously deduct any points from a Jagbar. But at this point, he'd already deducted a point from Kosovotsky. And then, yeah, I think in the third round, Kosovotsky got another point deducted for hitting on. He actually swiped at a Jagbar's side, so it was on the waistband, but it was towards the hip. He swiped at the side, and then he threw a shot out as the referee was saying break. So he got another point deducted for that. And then in the fourth round, same thing happened again. He got hit low, which he wasn't happy about. Referee didn't do anything, so he just said, "All right, you know what? I'm done with this." Bang, and he basically fouled his way out of the fight. I also feel like there was an issue with language and understanding, because I don't know what English Kosovotsky understands, if any, but the referee, a lot of his instructions at the time didn't seem clear. He didn't look like he was giving any consideration to the guy that didn't speak English, and I don't think he speaks Russian or Kazakh, or Kazakh, or whatever language he's particularly speaking. I don't think the referee was able to really communicate with him, and I think that just led to the frustration. Tony, what was your thoughts on that whole situation?
So, I mean, you couldn't have asked for more below the belt line action in one weekend to make you have to go and really examine what is going on in the sport. Because if we all look at with our tunnel vision at Dubois, Usyk, and apply everything that we've just talked about to this card here in Oklahoma, then people ain't winning the fight. Quite simply, F.A. Jagbar was the guilty party to start off this low blow business. He was throwing low jabs, and they were clearly too low because they were on the lower end of the waistband. And I just felt, you know what? There were points where Kosovotsky was actually folding up after receiving a punch. And I'm like, this referee is just ignoring him. He's not actually looking at this guy's body. If Kosovotsky does what Usyk did and fall to the ground, I'm thinking, does he count, or does he just do what the referee did in the Usyk Dubois fight? Because he's clearly getting hit in the nuts. And as you said, like the guy, a kid who's been told, tell the teacher, and if the teacher don't do nothing, then take it into your own hands. That's what he did. So this was one fight that was awful. This was just a messy fight. Oh, completely. Was it round 3 when they ended up tumbling over one another? I mean, there's round two. It was akin to WWE or something out of MMA. Looked like a proper takedown. Both men ending on the floor, one on top of the other. And you're like, rah, am I watching boxing here? So overall, just a terrible, terrible officiated fight. One which just should never have got to where it did. Because to me, the referee is responsible for ensuring that fair play is taking place by both boxers and showing that, they're both guilty of fouling each other. So that's my overall thoughts. Bad fight, stoppage. Yeah, it was warranted, but Jagbar started it.
Yeah, and also we got the commentary that we got in the UK was Christina Poncha and Chris Algieri, and I think the Americans got Bradley Tessitore and Mark Kriegel. So I don't know what their commentary was regarding it, but I know that Christina and Chris like almost disregarded every time that Kosovotsky had complained. It goes, "Oh, is he motioning? It's a low shot." On one or two occasions, they said that, but every other time, oh yeah, their body. He just doesn't like it to the body. He doesn't like it to the body. And I'm like, these shots are not hitting his body. Like, commentate on the fight as it's being presented to you, not in whatever narrative you might be thinking. Oh, because a Jagbar is obviously the home fighter in that situation. So that was a bit frustrating. I tweeted regarding that, obviously regarding the two, and I think Christina's a really good commentator, but I definitely feel like they were not giving any consideration to the guy. Maybe because he doesn't speak English, and they didn't expect any of his crowd to be listening, and whether they could have understood if they were. But it just, yeah, that whole proceeding kind of left a bad taste, especially after what we had seen earlier on in the night. But it is what it is. Efe Jagba moves on. I believe he is now 18-1 with 13 KOs. So it will be interesting to see what he does next. I mean, they may line him and Jared up for sort of like an eliminator, which would be an interesting proposal, or they might just keep them on sort of separate paths for the time being, and we'll see what kind of happens moving forward. But yeah, that's pretty much all the action from the US side of things. So,
No, one more.
what
Very
else we
quick
got?
men.
Oh,
Very
with
quick
Jack
mention.
Jalalov.
Jalalov,
And
yeah.
okay, so yeah, quick mention of Jalalov. I didn't see the whole fight, but I saw the knockdown. I think it was in the first round anyway.
First round,
We
yeah.
all know what Jalalov is. We know that he's like, the next guy up. But at this point, I know he just come back from the amateurs or whatnot, doing I think he went for Olympic trials or whatever, but they're gonna have to step up his level of competition because he's way too good for the people they're putting him in for. He's getting the good highlight reels, but the one round here, one round there isn't working unless you're gonna have him out every single month. So they're gonna have to start paying for some proper quality opposition. Although to be fair, he's only just recently joined Top Rank, so I'm hoping they will do. That was maybe like a show, like maybe a highlight real sort of fight for him, and then they'll step on the gas moving forward. But yeah, get him some good quality opponents, let him build up that stock, and then obviously you've got the built-in rivalry between him and Richard Torres Jr. as well, if you want to go there. But either way, they've got four top prospects in the rankings with Anderson, Jalalov, Torres, and a Jagbar that they can all have mixing it with each other, sort of like a year, 2 years down the line. They've got their association with Queensbury, so you can mix in Adelier, you can mix in obviously Dubois when he decides to come back, Joe Joyce, Atalma. Like you've got all of these there's a nice little pool there that you can all have like in your own round robin when the current crop all decide to leave. Also, yeah, Nico Ali Walsh got beat, split decision. Didn't watch it, but I don't care. See what he does moving forward. I've got nothing to say about it. Did you watch it? You see it?
I watched the highlights. It looked like Nico Ali Walsh was a little bit hard done by, but then I guess that could be the highlights that I got being very favourable in showing that the points in certain rounds where he was dominant, he was dominant. Looked like his opponent obviously did action that the cameramen were like, okay, we'll switch off while he's doing this bit. But yeah, I was never that highly favorable of where his ceiling was going to be. So obviously he's now got to rebuild and start again.
Okay, right. So now moving on to the card that took place in Poland. It's funny because you almost want to say the UK, but no, it's UK time. But the card took place in Poland. Um, Danny from Fight Fan TV, if I know you're in the chat, feel free to click the link. Obviously, we'll bring you on and like the main talking points. But yeah, this is kind of your time because you was there for the majority of this. With regards to so there's one fight. Well, there's two fights I want to talk about real quick. I watched the Hamza Shiraz fight. Yeah, it took, it finished in 2 rounds. I can't remember the name of the opponent, but they were both undefeated, and he had very credible amateur background. So that was really good work from Hamza. Kept tall, kept stuck behind the. Oh, that's it. Mitrofanov. Yeah, so he kept it very very tall. Boxed upright. He had a piston-like jab. It was a very piercing jab, power jab. It was really good work to see. And yeah, his punch variety was also very good, and his timing was impeccable. So had to kind of give him his credit there. Yeah, all in all, it was a good night of action with him, and he moves on now. They still don't want to do him and Denzel Bentley for the British title. They keep talking about world titles, but there's a British title there. Like, get it done. You was there, Danny. We can see you like yawning up on the screen.
Sorry.
But feel free to tell us what was your thoughts on that, because you probably had a more of a interest in that one.
Yes, so that fight in particular, that was seen as like a fight that could have been a real big banana skin. They was thinking, because the guy is a former Olympian. Even though he was a lot shorter, we could tell that the game plan between the two is either Hamza to keep it long, and the opponent, I forgot, what's his name again?
Mitrofanov.
Yeah, Mitrofanov was to get inside, roll under, and stuff like that. But as you said and pointed out quite evidently, that Hamza from the off, his jab was very piston-like, dropped him with a jab. It didn't even look like he put much power into it, but he walked into it, got dropped, and then from there he just kept getting dropped. He got dropped twice in the first round, again in the second round, and after he just kept, and then he got dropped twice again in the third, I believe, and then the ref just had enough, really. But yeah, I was very surprised with Hamza. He looked very good. Yeah, and really we got to get the Denzel Bentley fight on, really, because that's the main fight between Queensberry. If you're talking about middleweight action, and he's got the British title, Hamza, he's not going to go for the Commonwealth, is he, really? So what next?
I mean, that's what they're saying. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but Frank doesn't want to do it for some reason. And I don't really know why, because ultimately, if Hamza Shiraz is his main guy, realistically, he is his main guy, because he's loaned Denzel out several times on other shows. He's never done that with Hamza. So he clearly sees him as that next one up. So why not give him that quote unquote leg up to take that British title if he's good enough to do so? And, he'll look at Denzel as like a utility player, which I think he does anyway, if I'm totally honest. And then once you push Hamza, and then you have Denzel sort of, I guess, almost being your gatekeeper for the next up and comers, or move him up to 168 or something. But quite frankly, I think the reason he's only wants to do it for a title is because he knows that Denzel beats Hamza, and I believe that. Based on what I've seen of them, although Hamza's impressed me more recently than he did before, I think that's the reason why he doesn't want to do it now until there's a quote unquote world title on the line. Because if Hamza loses a world title shot, that's okay, but to lose a British one, I think he maybe says, "Oh, that's a more damning indictment on his skills and ability." I think it's all politicking, but we'll see. Not quite sure.
Yeah. I
Go on,
spoke to Hamza's team, because I was staying like in the same hotel as like Hamza and Dubois' team out there, and the team, they said that they that's the fight they want to go for, but ultimately it's up to the promoter, isn't it? So hey, Frank don't feel like Hamza's ready for him, or he'd rather him go down another route, because I know what you're saying. Frank would probably rather use Denzel as like a Dillian White of his company, like the AJ Dillian White thing, and play him second fiddle just underneath Hamza all the time on the cards. But maybe the opponents have made Hamza look good, whereas someone like Denzel is a bit more experienced, and also we know he can punch. So if he does land on Hamza, that will probably be the biggest punches he would have received. So it'd be very interesting to see how he takes that, especially as a man who has come up from light middle. So yeah.
And they've also had you know, there was the infamous, there's always sparring stories, but if you follow the whispers, you know, Denzel always got the better of those sparrings back in the day. So maybe that's also another thing that's in mind, but who knows? All right, moving on real quick before we get to the Dennis Berenchik fight, because we'll talk about that one briefly. I just want to highlight Prince Adam Hamed. And obviously, I know you was there. I know you got to see your idol. Brilliant. And I'm happy for you. I'm even happy for him. But what I'm not happy about is the opponent they brought in for him. Not because I think the opponent was bad or anything, because I mean he was what he was. I know Adam hasn't had any pro or amateur experience, so this is his first fight total, not even a white collar. But what I'm actually disgusted with is they put him in there against a 17-year-old boy who, like, probably who on the I think a couple of days before the weigh-in was weighing 135 pounds. Like, so he's literally a tiny guy. You've got him against a fighting a 23-year-old, and he's 2 or 3 weight classes below him, as I guess, like, professionally, if you want to look at it that way. That's the equivalent of a sixth former fighting a year 7, or possibly even a year 6, if we're talking 5 to 6 years difference between the two. Like, that in itself, and to have it at a weight of 143, and the guy's just about weighing 135 with, you know, as his walk around weight. I think that was I think that was a disgrace. To have that as the quote unquote chief support, like, again, I understand it because it's you know, the Hamed and the name and everything, but they obviously done the same thing that they tried to do with Campbell Hatton on Sky, which blew up in their faces because people started to see exactly how bad he was. Now, luckily, you had this little boy on this occasion who was useless, if we're going to be honest, but he's supposed to be. He's not even an adult. Literally, he's a child still. He's an adolescent, and you're putting him in the ring with a fully fledged, maturated 23-year-old like man, a young man, against maybe an older boy. Now, yeah, obviously in Mexico you might have 15-year-olds fighting older men and stuff. That's cool, because but that's always like the level is they're fighting people that, you know, they're of a certain level to beat. This kid was just outmatched from the start, to the point where you could tell he didn't even want to really be in there after a little bit. I just felt personally that was embarrassing, from whether it was Queensbury, because obviously I know he signed with them, but whether it was them that sorted out the opponent or whether it was K2 Promotions, definitely wasn't Skills Challenge. I know that. But yeah, that was embarrassing. And I can't lie, if I see them do something like that again, I'd have to boycott, because literally you're endangering the life of a child at that point. Like, if it was a 17-year-old that was actually bigger than him, okay, maybe you say fine. But it's a little 135-pound guy facing a one that's 143 that's probably dropped a bit of weight. He probably walks around much bigger than that, whereas this kid is walking around at 135. And yeah, I've had my rant on it, but I just think it was disgusting, and I don't ever want to see that again, quite frankly. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that, being there live and seeing it.
Well, I noticed the guy, he was very weedy, but he was taller than Adam. But I think that maybe K2 might have sorted it, because in the UK, you can't get a 17-year-old to fight him. So at least we know when he fights on the Queensbury card out in the UK, the person will be, 18 or above. But, it's the first bout. You're always going to get a blowover on your debut. That's normally the way. The age thing was a bit surprising. Us over here, we don't normally see 15, 16, 17-year-old fights. Even the ones they have out in Mexico, we're not really privy to actually seeing the footage of those fights when people like Canelo and Devin Haney have them. So that was our first experience of seeing someone under 18 who can't go into a dance yet. Have a fight. But
don't get me wrong. I understand your knockover job. Obviously, he's never had a fight before, so you need to make sure this goes right. I get all of that, but you could have found an adult at least. You could have paid a journeyman to say, look, all you got to do, take him a couple rounds, lay down. If you really wanted to, you can do all of that, but not with a 17-year-old kid.
But remember, Amir Khan was 17-year-old when he got the silver in the Olympics as well. So
yeah, but that's Olympics.
Yeah, but he was against fully fledged man like Mario Kinderlin, who's about our age.
Yeah, but Olympics is like that's the bit different, I would say, because the Olympics are a bit more stringent with rules and what you're allowed to do, where you're allowed to strike. There's headgear. There's a lot of different things. You know, I would say that is a lot of a safer sport, quote unquote, than the pro game. Now, yeah, so we have no idea what Ahmed's opponent. I mean, what's it called? We've got no obviously knowledge of how durable he is, like what kind of shots he can take. Like I say, but either way, like I'm saying, he's a child.
Yeah,
child in the amateurs is different because they love to forget the Olympics is still amateurs. So a child in the amateurs is different to a child in the pro game. That's all I would say personally. But okay, let's talk about Dennis Berenchik and Anthony Yigit. Now, seeing as you was there, I guess you can. I'll let you ride with this one, and then I think maybe Tony might come back in a little bit later on. But yeah, what was your thoughts on this one?
Oh man, this was a very good fight. They promised fireworks, especially Anthony Yigit. He was talking a big fight. He was like, "Yeah, this is the main event. This is the main event." This was at the weigh-in, and the crowd was like, all right, mate, we're here for Usyk and that." But so we were thinking, because it was a rematch from what 10, 11 years ago. So there's some, and it ended in a knockout. So yeah, we're thinking, all right, well let's see. But yeah, it was pleasantly surprising. Dennis Berenchik boxed well, moving, and then obviously as we got into the later rounds, they just decided to have a phone booth tear up, which just got the crowd going ballistic. So you know, all the Ukrainian flags started going up. Even you can hear some Swedish fans up in the place because the Scandinavian countries are not too far from Poland. So yeah, that was just a really good tear up. And yeah, he showed a good chin. It was mad how they just abandoned defense because I was waiting for, you know, when they both, you know, when you turn like that and then, you know, when all it takes is one hook to land and someone's going to get iced. So I was thinking it's going to happen, but it didn't end up happening. But it was a good grandstand penultimate round and round 10. Wait, how many rounds was it?
12.
Yeah, it was 12 rounds. Yeah, so from right about round 9, they just both decided to have a shootout. And yeah, Yigit, he got cut. I saw he was complaining afterwards about the hospitals they wouldn't take him because they said
he had to make his own way to the hospitals and that.
Yeah, they wouldn't take him in hospital. Said it weren't life threatening. So he's upset about that. His face was a mess, and they're feeling that it might get infected. Berenchik, he done, you know, the Ukrainians proud, and yeah, he got a good hero's welcome out there. So yeah, he done very well. That was a very good fight. I like that one. What was your thing?
No, I mean, when I watched the fight, obviously I had predicted for Berenchik to get a stoppage in this one. While he doesn't have huge KO ratio, 17-0 with 9 KOs, but I knew they'd obviously stopped Yigit before, and also every time Yigit has lost a fight, it was via knockout. So I thought that it would start cagey with Yigit obviously on the not so much on the back foot, but I felt like he would be trying to counter a lot. And then when he's countering, like almost Berenchik would then, you know, sweep back and try and counter the counter. So I thought it was going to be that kind of tactical game to start with Berenchik basically just being able to kind of overwhelm him because he's a orthodox fighter normally, but he's a guy that will sometimes switch. And whereas Yigit was fighting from southpaw a lot of the time, I think Berenchik was like, no, I'm not going to give you the advantage of pouring my jab away. So I saw him shooting the backhand and then stepping into southpaw and then changing the backhand to a jab to basically try and unsettle Yigit. I saw him do it quite a few times in the fight. So I thought it was I thought the fight was leaning the way that I expected it to go, but then every time that I thought Berenchik had Yigit on the ropes, like kind of ready to go, he kept backing off. and just giving Anthony Yigit that moment to adjust himself, to get back, to normal, get back his functions, get back to moving and sort of trying to hit and move and hit and move. And yeah, I just thought there's a couple of times that Dennis Berenchik just didn't capitalize on the moments. But ultimately, I liked, it's a great thing when you just see two guys almost just abandon the game, said, you know what, we're going to see what we're going to just stand in the middle. Whoever gets knocked out gets knocked out. And they both just made that gentleman's agreement. They both just nodded to each other, pointed down to the middle of the ring, and then they just swung. And even though I guess that the shots weren't the most powerful shots in the world, the fact that they were basically just swinging for the whole 3 minutes, obviously that occasionally you might get one of them fall into the clinch to almost catch a breather, push the other one off, and then just go back at it again. I just thought that was really great work. It was a great way to end the fight, because I thought that it was starting to get a little bit laborious from sort of around 8-9, because I just thought it feels like Berenchik's got him here, like, step on the gas, and he kept backing out. So that was very sort of frustrating. But then, round 10, they kind of, done. I was like, okay, boom, we can, you started to see the two of them just go for it a bit more. Then round 11, all right, they just turned it up a little bit more, but then they slowed down, and then all of a sudden round 12, like I said, it was just a gentleman's agreement, middle of the ring, let's do this. And, it's definitely Dan Aziz's Andre Sterling energy, middle of the ring, bang out, like, and are you on it if I'm on it? And they was both on it, and they both did it, and they got the crowd going. So gotta give them big props and respect for that. It didn't end in a knockout for anyone, which was probably the maybe the right way, that both guys basically went out with their sword and shield intact. But obviously Yigit did lose quite comfortably. No complaints with scoring. Although I did think that I think there was one card which was 115, 113, which I was surprised at. The 117, 111 and the 116, 112 looked more sensible to me than that 115, 113. But it was a very competitive fight. And I do actually think Anthony Yigit won that 12th round. So he can always take that as almost a victory in itself. So yeah. That was that one. Tony, if you want to jump back in, feel free, because now we're at, I guess, the main talking point for the night. Hope it doesn't go super long, but I'm sure it will. And yeah, I will let you lead on this one. Then Danny can have his say, and then I will sort of finish with my thoughts. And yeah, we'll leave it there. You're muted.
So we come to the main event of the night, the defense of his unified heavyweight championship in Poland for Alexander Usyk against Daniel Dubois. A fight that was interesting because, to me, there wasn't... I mean, a lot of people gave Daniel Dubois very little hope of competing in this fight, and this kind of reminded me a little bit of Anthony Yarde against Kovalev, in that he was able to compete, and you're waiting for that moment in the fight where he's gonna let it go, and when that happens, you're thinking it could be his night. As I said, I was already counting how many Ukrainians had lost on the night, and I was thinking this could be another one. Usyk, master technician, but what he did in this fight was, to me, was he slowly found his way into a point where he could actually damage Daniel Dubois. And what he did to do that was effectively using a strategy of movement and just prodding and poking from time to time. There was a lot of the hand chess where, you're fencing against your opponent in the early rounds, southpaw against orthodox. Usyk, you could see he was wary of Dubois' power, so he moves away a lot from the right hand of Dubois. Dubois, clearly, his strategy was to try and, get that right hand in. But in order to do that, he needs to have his feet positioned in the right place. So for my kids that are watching, I told you this before, southpaws against orthodox, it's all about that outside foot position. So Daniel clearly is not that technically gifted to be able to deal with a technician like Alexander Usyk. And Usyk was just wary of the size and power of Dubois. So he just used his movement and flurries to consistently win rounds, just hitting Daniel. There was never any of the early rounds where you thought to yourself, look, Daniel's going to be in trouble here. No, Usyk was scoring points. That's what he was doing. But each round, the intensity just grew and grew. And then we get to the 5th round. I am right, Dan. It is the 5th round, isn't it?
Yes, it is the 5th round.
Yes.
If I was you, I'd actually speak about the 3rd and the 4th round first. But actually, no, do your thing. I'll
you
speak
do
about
it. You do it, so I can catch up with you. Go into 3 and 4. Go ahead.
Okay, so no, because I actually think that the 3rd round was, even though it wasn't scored, and I did score a round for Daniel, I think the 3rd round was actually his best round. It's when he became a bit more adventurous. It's when he started trying to throw those counter body shots. So when Usyk was throwing, he was trying to throw with him. He landed a couple of decent body shots in that one. He also, in the 3rd round, I believe it was the 3rd, when he basically threw a right hand from almost, there was no wind up on it. It was almost like just a shoulder right hand, but it caught Usyk, I think, square in the jaw. And Usyk, obviously, he took it well, but you could see that, all right, he stopped attacking for like about 10 to 15 seconds after that, and started kind of just moving around the target, trying to sort of get himself back set again. And I think from that round was when Daniel started to catch a little bit of confidence. Now, in the 4th round, the combo that you're about to talk about in the 5th, that's the first time he tried that same combo. He actually tried it and landed it in the 4th. The difference is where he landed it was actually in the stomach, above the band, not on the waistband. It was above it. But he done the same thing where Usyk's moved to the side, tried to chop down with the right. Daniels pushed out the left for the jab and has swung the hook from that counter angle. And yeah, that was the first time he tried it, and he landed it in that round as well. Like I said, it didn't affect Usyk. There was no reaction to it as such, but obviously we don't know the veracity of it. But that's where it started, and I guess that was when he said, all right, maybe I can actually do this. But I'll let you talk about the rest, because obviously I will make my other points afterwards with regards to some of Daniel's other tactics, which aren't really being spoken about.
Okay, so I guess that this whole next 10 minutes is going to be really about the validity of that punch in the 5th round, which landed on the waistband. And I know, Danny, I've lined up your videos ready for you to defend it. My own view is going to be quite simple. Two things can be right at the same time and be different. There is a rule. I wanna make it clear though, because I've actually listened to a few people on different forums talking about the rule, and the rule about it being low if you hit beneath the navel, which I have reliably been informed is incorrect. The navel is no longer the navel. The navel is now for attack, direct clean hits from the knuckle part of the glove or either hand to any part of the front side of the head or above the belt. The belt is defined as an imaginary line drawn across the body from the top of the hip bones. Okay.
I can actually disprove that. Actually, you do your thing. What I'll do is I'll load up something else which you would put in the thing. They was going by WBA rules. It was a WBA sanctioned bout with the other belts obviously on the line. WBA quite clearly says a shot happened basically, obviously, is a below the line shot. The line is defined by below the navel and the point above the hip, above the hips. That's what the WBA says. The Association of Boxing Commissions defines an illegal blow as behind the back of the ear or below the navel. So
okay, so
I'll load those up.
So that clearly shows that there's duality in the laws. What you've just said exposes the fact that different commissions or different organizations have different rules, because the sample which I just printed from you for you and highlighted comes from the BBBOC. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying they had jurisdiction in that particular fight, but that particular rule also exists in another governing body for all the bodies. So I'm not saying you're wrong in what you said, but what I can say is quite clearly there are different rules, as we know. Each of the bodies has different rules. I think the one thing they can agree on is a set of weights. But other than that, you know, they'll have 3-minute rounds with 10-9, 10-point master and da-da-da and da-da-da. So on this particular occasion, when it comes to this rule, there are differing rules which, based on your understanding of legality, yeah, then I'm not going to argue with you to say that wasn't a low blow. Because if your rule is absolutely 100% proof, right, that it's below the navel, then it's an illegal blow. However, I happen to know through years of experience that rule about the navel and where the position of the waistband is has been there for years. And it's been totally ignored. In
One
the
moment,
same
Tony.
way...
Sorry, one moment. Ramel, just to answer this, he says, doesn't BBBOC override WBA? It would if it was in Britain, but it wasn't. This wasn't a British sanctioned bout. It was the Polish Boxing Commission. So their rules wouldn't override WBA, WBO, or any of the other sanctioning bodies. So yeah, just so you are aware of that. Please continue, Tony.
Cool. So just like the rule that says you're not allowed to hit behind the ear. And 2 weeks ago, Philip Hrgović against Dempsey McKean, repeated blows by Philip Hrgović on the rear of the head to Dempsey McKean. Referee said nothing. Now, I'm going to tell you first for nothing. I've boxed. Danny has boxed. We know these rules exist. Now, in amateur boxing, the waistband on your pair of shorts are white. Then the color of your shorts can be any color. Yeah. And the reason that is so that the judges can see clearly what is legal and what isn't.
What it is, remember, you wear a sash. Do you remember?
Yes. Yeah. Now, what I will say is what referees and judges sanction by way of legal requirements in the game of boxing is different to what is written, which is why we see consistency is not there. We don't get every week someone getting disqualified for low blows. We just don't. What we tend to see is a low blow like Golovkin. Golota, yeah, against
Andrew
Riddick
Golota.
Bowe.
Andrew Golota from Poland, funny enough.
Yeah, where the blow clearly goes in the nut. And if you're looking at a protector, yeah, you'll see there's a hell of a lot of protector above the cup area. Yeah, in the amateurs, they tend to wear a smaller cup, so a cup to protect the groin area, and then a little waistband that just has flimsy ties around it.
No padding.
It
has no padding on it.
Yeah, but the pro guard is a much bigger device, and depending where you get it, which manufacturer you get, the height of it could be this, it could be that, which is why some people's guards, their waistband is always above. Now, Base, you made the point that Daniel Dubois' waistband is way higher than Usyk's. Way higher. So we don't have to go to that point anymore, because where Usyk is punching, we haven't got an issue. Now, where the punch lands, we can now jump into this, because we've established there is a law. Yeah? But the problem is the law has never been kept the way it has been kept in this fight on a regular basis. So it creates confusion, because people who watch boxing regularly will say, well, hang on a second, I just saw Jared Anderson a few hours later banging bejesus out of a guy's waistband, and the referee never said a single thing. So I'm going to leave it there, because I think I want to hear Danny, because I've got some footage for you, Dan. You've got a very strong point in why you believe that punch was legal. But as far as I'm concerned, I understand the legal side of it, and I understand if you want to go and say we take this to court, then it's going to be it was low. But in general, what I see in boxing, that's a legal punch.
Before you go, Danny, no, Philip, it's not because he's taller why his one was high. It was much higher. It was sitting about 2 inches below his chest, his protector and his shorts. It was nothing to do with his height, because his height doesn't determine his torso.
And that's down to which manufacturer you choose to get your protector from. Each manufacturer produces different things, like gloves. Yeah, some people, if you go and say which glove do you want if you're a puncher, you're going to say cleat or raise, because they're punchers' gloves. They give you maximum impact. Other glove manufacturers are producing gloves which are way more padded. Yeah, but you'd think they'd all be the same, but they're not. Manufacturers can make slight adjustments.
Yeah. Back in the day, cleat or raise was the puncher's gloves, but now there are different. There's manufacturers who make different versions of gloves. I.e., if you're talking about Everlast, there's the Everlast MXs, and they are now the new puncher's gloves. Hence, you see people like Deontay Wilder wear them, Terence Crawford wear them, and some various other fighters. Craig Richards wears them, and there's other fighters who wear them as well. But the Everlast MXs is the new puncher's gloves.
Cool.
But yeah, let me go into what I thought about the fight. Yeah, the fight. The atmosphere was very good. I sent some footage over. As you could, well, let's talk about that punch. As you can see, it's hit him in the belly. Now, people talk about the navel. Anything below the navel is low. Now, we've all got a body and anatomy. So if you look at your own belly, below your belly button, you've still got belly there. Now, why it hurts so much? As you know, Tony, you've boxed, and Base, you've done some boxing as well, and you must have been hitting the body. Now, if you get hit below the belly button, that's that lower abdomen area. Now, we know that is the hardest part to get muscle on. When you're doing your ab and your crunches, that last 2-pack, you got that little, you can pinch an inch. That last, and if you get hit in the upper part of your belly, nice and firm, hit me. When you tell to somebody, oh yeah, punch me in the stomach, I can take shots. You ain't gonna tell them hit you below the navel part, because that is the sensitive part, and that's why Usyk tends to hate being hit there. That's why he has his waistband a bit high. But what I noticed, his body belt is not as high, because I noticed the people who tend to have the high body belt with the manufacturers is normally those Americans. I noticed they walk around, they have these mad big belts, like it's just ridiculous. But that shot from Dubois, Usyk said it was in his balls. That was not in his balls. So he's not.
Sorry, just to correct you, he didn't say the shot was in his balls. He said he only felt power in his balls. That's what he said. Just to correct you on his particular, because that's what he basically said. But if you look at the arc of the shot, you can clearly see that started at the bottom of the top part of that protector. So as we all know, if that protector rises, there's very big possibility that it draws the rest of the cup up with it, hence causing pain in that anatomy as well as in your bladder. But go ahead.
Yeah, but even if people, there's as you see, even if you get hit in the body belt bit, that it's always going to ride up, unfortunately, and so it's going to cause discomfort. But at the end of the day, as you can see, look, even some of the glove is above the belt there. When you're talking about moment of impact, you can see his rib, where his rib is, and yeah, it goes across. And remember, Usyk jumped upwards as well to try and make. You can see there's in the annals of Usyk history, he has always had problems with body shots. And I notice a lot of Eastern European fighters tend to not like body shots. The only time we've seen Golovkin hurt was a body shot. Kovalev, you know, Andre Ward ain't a big puncher. How did Ward do him in the second fight? Body shots. And the thing I don't like, especially with this weekend, because in history, well, in recent years, good stuff by Ward. What we've been talking about and moaning about with heavyweights they're just basically new heavyweights. They just throw the 1-2. None of them know how to work on the inside. None of them throw body shots. Now we've seen a whole weekend of heavyweights landing body shots, and we're complaining, Dubois' one was low. Gerard Anderson's was low. Jagbar's was low. Kosovotsky's was low, even though, yeah, the Jagbar Kosovotsky one was being silly. But it's been a weekend of, the talking point is heavyweight body shots. And they're being penalized because heavyweights, I notice in general, tend to wear their guard very high as well, and their shorts high. And that's probably maybe a reason why a lot of heavyweights don't get knockouts via body shots in general, because I notice a lot of them do wear their shorts and guards higher, protected higher than other weight classes. But yeah, even when I spoke to Ukrainians and Polish people out there after the fight, and when we saw the replay and stuff like that, people, they were saying, yeah, it wasn't low. That was a fair shot. But hey, our guy won. Usyk, he was using the feint, 2 to 3 phase attacks, and he ultimately broke Daniel down. And I think that Daniel's spirit and his self-belief kind of started to wane after it started to get a bit on top towards the 8th and the 9th. And he took a knee. I think he could have got up personally. But yeah, as we've seen with Berenchik, another Ukrainian, when Regis Prograis hit him blatantly in the belly, he left on a stretcher. Yeah. And Prograis got disqualified. Yes, thankfully it got overturned when Prograis put an appeal in. But initially, Prograis was disqualified for a shot in the belly. And Berenchik. So yeah, that's something we got to look into. Referees now are going to be on a high alert when Usyk fights on. Was this a legit body shot, or is he just play acting? Because there's other footage where when Tony Bellew hits in the belly, he complains. When he's in some amateur bouts, he does this thing where he starts waddling around like everything's in the kidneys or it's low. It's just he's always doing some weird complaints, and I don't think. And the way he went down, and he's just there trembling on the floor. His hands are trembling. He's doing crosses on his body. Jesus, pray to Jesus, God signs. And the way he was on the floor, I don't think if the ref started counting, I'm not sure he would have made that count because he was really winded by that punch. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it's a lifestyle thing or is it a genetic thing. But I tend to know it's a lot of Eastern Bloc fighters are not good at taking body shots, unfortunately. So what's your thoughts there, Base?
Well, that last one there is, that's below the waistband. You see where that one lands, but
the knuckles.
Yeah, which is obviously where you shoot, where you hit from, and that was quite clearly low. However, cool.
Sorry. Can I just talk about that particular one?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to start it again because I don't have the ability to pause and then just go back a little bit. But essentially, look very carefully at where some of these shots are landing. The second amateur fight against Beterbiev, look where Beterbiev hits him. It's clearly in the lower rib. Yeah, look carefully where that punch lands, because this is the important thing. Now, the fight that we were just seeing, and you said it's clearly low. What happens is the guy aims at his chest, but then Usyk brings his hands down And as he brings his hands down, he diverts the punch. And if you look at what happens, the punch literally grazes the front of his shorts. Yeah, but he goes down like it's a gunshot in the nuts. But he's actually just got a graze because the punch actually, it only literally grazes the front of his shorts. I want you to look at that very carefully. I've
put it on the
slowed it
screen.
down to as slow as I can get it, and I've also brought it into
Usyk deflected the punch.
Louder, so you will see. So, you know, there's definitely an issue. That's a body shot. You can see him where he put his hand. That's the body. Yeah, because look where he puts his hand. Ouch. Okay, this is Beterbiev. Clearly gets him on the side. Beterbiev in red. Bang. See where that shot is? Above the white waistband. That's as clear as day. Now, watch this one. The punch gets deflected, and I slow it down so you can see that. Yeah? You will see this very clearly. He makes a meal of it.
Yeah. Deflection.
Yeah, but we know in the rules. Yeah, but we know in the rules it says if a punch gets deflected, it's not an illegal blow. But we're not saying whether that was illegal. But we're saying
look where it lands, and look at the angle of the glove. It hits the top of the waistband, but the man's hand is going down. Is there? You know, he's making it clear that I'm having issues when you hit me to that part of my body.
Yeah, like the Tony Belly one.
Again, Anthony Joshua on the waistband. Why is he making a big thing of that? He has a problem. And the thing is, with all these situations, yeah, he's either going down on a knee, he starts doing his praying stuff. On this one, he's actually out.
He's trembling.
Look at my man. Do you think my man could have got up? Hell no. He wasn't getting up. That was a knockout. He's completely winded.
And he was trembling on the floor.
I could have got up is rubbish. He was completely out. There was no way he was getting up before 10. So, Base, over to you. The prosecution rests.
Okay. So if we go back to obviously the fight itself, so you have so we do first round, Usyk controls that quite comfortably. Second round is more comfortable. In the first round he landed a jab within the first 11 seconds of the fight, which was never sort of gonna bode well for Daniel Dubois ultimately. So you have that. Have the second round where the backhand starts getting introduced. As I said, Daniel Dubois started to actually have a bit of success. I thought it was quite good success in the third round, where he started making Usyk have to think a bit more and keep composed. But Usyk was obviously, he was taking a lot more chances with Dubois. Now, part of that I think was due to the canvas, but also I think he, in his mind, probably felt that that Daniel Dubois was maybe his easiest opponent since, I don't know, Thomas Muller, maybe, if we're gonna be, Johnny Muller, sorry.
Chaz Witherspoon?
No, I think he might have think that Muller was an easier opponent than Witherspoon was, personally. I don't know. Basically, I just don't think he respected Daniel. So ultimately, at that point, he was taking a lot more chances. So now we move into the notorious fifth round. And as I said, Daniel Dubois did that exact same setup. He threw the same shot in the fourth round, and it landed. And on that particular shot, you had Usyk didn't show any reaction to it. So then we go to the fifth round now. Now, a lot of people have said, oh, well, so we've been talking mostly about like, oh, the navel, and a lot of people have said, where is the navel? Like, you can't see it, blah, blah, blah. So we don't know where it is in relation to where the shot lands. So I want to just put this piece of footage up. This is after he gets up, right? Watch what he does right here. As he walks towards, stretches out, navel is right there. So that automatically, and you can see the top of it at this moment. So there's no point now anyone can say, okay, well his waistband or his protector is high. It's not. It's literally just at the top of where his navel is. So that's that part. That's the first thing. Secondly, some people have said, did it even hit the protector? That's another piece of that I've heard, right? So I've got a piece of footage here. This is just going to be the shot. I've got a full clip, which is 100, which is 1 minute 30, but I only need this one with the sound so you can hear the sound that it makes. And Danny, I'm sure you may have heard this in the arena, possibly. Right, so that sound right there is clearly not the sound of you hitting someone's flesh or their stomach. You can hear if that was someone's body, you would hear more of a doom. You don't hear a doom, you hear a very loud crash, which is the glove, the lever of the glove, which is attacking that protector, which I'm assuming is probably going to be leather hide or some form of leather composite with padding towards the back of it. So you've got those two there. So people who would say, well, he wears his trunks and he wears his cup high, he wears his protector high, that's already been disproven right there, because you see as he gets up where his belly button is in relation to the cup. You hear the shot. Hearing that shot, you can tell that does not land on skin, that does not contact body, that lands in a part of the body that has already been said to be off limits. So particularly at that point, it's a case of, as soon as I saw the shot live, I said, oh, that's low. That was immediately what I said. I saw the replays. I said, yeah, that was a low shot, because I know what low is to the letter of the law. I know that your sternum, like your stomach, where your bladder is, where your lower, the upper hip, the navel part, as you said, Danny, that's the most tender part of your stomach. Hence why they put a body protector there. If that wasn't the case, all they would do is just give you a cup to say, if someone hits you low in the nuts, in the private area, then we offer you a little bit of protection there. You have a guard, you have a total guard for that exact reason, because that part of the body is off limits and requires more protection than the rest of you. Hence why you're not supposed to attack it. So in all of that, I say, and I've quite happily said, that it was a low shot. Ultimately, where is my thing here? WBA rules. I'm not going to be able to see that. It's a bit too low. Okay, I might have to re-upload that. But in there, it basically says it's below the navel or behind the ear. It tells you what a foul is deemed as. So either way, no matter how you look at it, by the letter of the law, it was a low shot. Regardless of what is customarily acceptable in boxing, or what people normally view as correct procedure, there's almost like when you have a consensus champion versus a title holder, right? Well, okay, well, you've got the people who say, no, he's the consensus champion because XYZ, he never lost the belt on the scales, blah blah blah. But the official rules will tell you the title holder is the champion. It's the same way as I said previously. If you get caught doing 70 miles an hour in a 40-mile zone, it's unfortunately at that particular time, like, you're guilty regardless. You could get away with it 100 times. You get caught one time, you're guilty. So even though in every boxing match we're conditioned to accept that a low blow is literally just the testicles and the dick, the private area, and that's it, that's not the rule. And if on this one occasion the rule gets enforced correctly, that doesn't then mean that, oh, well, no, that's wrong, because every other time we're allowed to do X, Y, and Z. You used to be allowed to park on a single yellow line on bank holiday, but guess what? They still tow cars nowadays if they feel like it, and you can't argue it. because you're still on a single yellow or a double red or whatever it is. Ultimately, just because people flout the rules and get away with them, that doesn't mean that the rules ain't there. That can be enforced at any particular time. And unfortunately, in this particular moment, Daniel was on the end of the rules being enforced correctly. Now, outside of that, we can discuss what took place after that, because either way, you've got, like you said, you've got Tony who said basically, well, look, two things can be correct. Everyone's doing basically illegal tactics, quote unquote, but there is a rule that says X, Y, and Z. So it is what it is. Danny's here saying ultimately to him it was a clean legal shot because it was just on the waistline, it was on the waistband, and there was, you know, it was just a nice clean shot just to the pit of the stomach, which Usyk has a problem with. I'm saying letter of the law, it was a low blow. Ultimately, the fact, as some people have said in the chat, that it's not been widely accepted either way, means that there can't be any conspiracy, there can't be any agenda, there can't be any robbery. So ultimately, on this particular occasion, Daniel Dubois, if you want to say, he got the bad end of the decision. That's not saying that it was the wrong decision, but he was on the bad end of it on this particular occasion, whereas other people have been on the favorable end of it previously. That's just pretty much how it is. Now, all of that took place. Usyk gets up. He has 3 minutes and 46 seconds to recover. Let's now discuss what happened for the next 3 rounds, or the next 3.5 rounds. So, Tony, you can, since you started the first round, you can also start this one, and we take it from there. Then Danny, then I will finish that, and we can end the stream.
So we had the 3.5 minutes on the floor and rolling around and prayers and walking around, you know, being unable to walk. Maestro, thank you very much for all your comments in the chat. As I mentioned just prior to you jumping on, I did show the graphic of the rules, which came from the BBBOC. I did try to, I explained about, is it the ABC?
Yeah, I went off of both the WBA rules, which the fight was sanctioned by, and I also showed, or I tried to show on here, the boxing, the Association of Boxing Commissions rules as well. Both of which I sent to you on WhatsApp, so I'm sure you would have read them and read what they said. Tony, carry on.
From what I listened to Maestro's show, he did mention that I think you may have sent him old rules, but I'm not going to argue that right now, because Maestro has spoken to a referee who pointed him in the direction of rules which, according to him, the ABC have amended that rule from navel to top of the hip in the same way the BBBOC have done so. But, you know, that's legal technicalities. Let's move on to the end of the fight. So essentially, Usyk gets away with what he's done, as far as I'm concerned. He then gets the opportunity to get his way back into this fight. It's interesting. Somebody said in the chat, I noticed that Dubois, on one of the judges won round 3, and on another judge won round 4. I couldn't see that myself. I thought Usyk was in total control throughout the early rounds, and as I said, he just basically kept moving up the gears. So he just needed to re-establish himself. I think round 6, I would have given that to Dubois. That was, to me, the round where Usyk was just trying to get himself back on an equilibrium. So Dubois was, to me, the winner of that round. But from round 7 onwards, there was no doubt that Usyk knew what he needed to do. He then believed in himself, in his ability to close the show out, because you could see him starting to work much closer with his footwork in relation to where Daniel was, and using the angles of a southpaw to be able to hit Daniel with shots that Daniel, quite frankly, doesn't have the technical capability to defend himself from. You know, when you're fighting a guy like Usyk, who's a very technically sound southpaw, you have to know your angles. You know, southpaws are a son of a gun to fight. You know, I'm a switch hitter myself, so I know that I can put my feet into positions as a southpaw and suddenly find myself in great punching range where my opponent just cannot throw anything back. Daniel, did you want to jump in and say something? Sound, you're mute.
Yeah, I was just saying that I'm a southpaw myself, so yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you know, his use of footwork, exemplary, has always been. From, you know, I remember seeing him as an amateur beating Joe Joyce, and just marveling at his you know, his accuracy and his footwork, and so it was to be in those 7th, 8th, and 9th round where he was just able to totally dominate Daniel Dubois with technique and footwork and find shots that were hurtful. He was also able to utilize, and this is something that not a lot of people may have mentioned, but his jab was hurting Daniel Dubois. And, you know, when you consider that we saw Terence Crawford drop Errol Spence with a jab, you know, the importance of a jab, and it's the ability to do that comes with practice. And again, to, you know, any of the kids who or any of the adults who watch boxing and want to try it out, your jab is your number one punch. You know, I see kids, they're trying that big right hook as a lead, and it's like, I can see that all day because of where it comes from, the way your position, your body position is. I see that from a mile away. But my jab is fundamental. It can do so much damage, and if thrown in the right way, because there are various ways and techniques of use of throwing the jab. You know, you can look at the way Larry Holmes throws a jab, look at the way Mike Tyson throws a jab. They're totally different. The impact could be the same, but they throw that particular punch in different ways. And Usyk was touching Dubois with some hurtful jabs, and they helped him set up what was eventually to be the finish of the fight. Dan?
Yeah, so I've spoken a lot about the Eastern Bloc, a lot of the fighters not being well taking body shots, but also one thing about the Eastern Bloc fighters, they're very technically sound, and they have this school of boxing. We talk a lot about Cuban style boxing, but I would say that the Eastern European fighters, when it comes to the jab, they have mastered the art of it. Because if you talk about guys like Kovalev, who throws the 2-1, you've got Bivol, who throws the 1-2-1, you've got Usyk, who was doing 3-phase attacks, 1-2, 2-1s, well, 3 down the middle, you know, 1, 2, 3 straight, 4 straight. And if you look at a lot of the fight, and especially when they were showing the replays at the end of the round, a lot of the action was Usyk jolting the jaw of Daniel Dubois with jabs, which at first wasn't bothering him. Yeah, you might see the spray, but Daniel, you look fine. It's just a jab in it, power jabs. But he was taking it. But over the course of the fight, you know, the accumulation of it, plus, you know, Usyk started to get aggressive, especially after he got when the fight actually did finally commence in round 5 again. He actually started to get aggressive and won the rest of the round. And then round 7, he started getting aggressive. The bell kind of went as Daniel was in a bit of bother. Round 8, he dropped Daniel Dubois with an accumulation of shots, and he went down on one knee. So he was really looking for the stoppage. As you remember, it is a homecoming. He is looking to put on for the crowd. He had 43,000 in there. There was a lot of flags going on. You got to remember, he's got his brethren in there. He's got guys from school who have probably never seen him fight because he's always been on their away turf. He's probably had guys hitting him up for tickets. You know, the old, yeah, you got 10 ringside tickets. And then they're flopping him. Oh, do you know what? Madness, you know, obviously in their language. So a lot of pressure was on him at the end of the day, and he felt he needed to put on an aggressive show, and that's when he could see Daniel Dubois' will and his confidence start to drop. And then, yeah, after he dropped him in round 8, he got through the round, and he hit him with a jolting jab where he sort of stepped off to the side and hit him with a jolting jab, and then Daniel's legs just sort of melted. I don't know if White should have melted like that. I don't know if fatigue kicked in or what. As I said, he looked at the ref, looked at the corner. He looked like he could have rose up, but he started rising up very late. Kind of like how what's Deontay Wilder's trainer, Malik Scott. Remember when he started getting up mad late against Chisora, when he could have easily beat the count? It kind of reminded me of that. But post-fight statement, Daniel did say that he lost belief in the fight, and that's probably why he decided to not beat the count. So yeah, but good showing by Usyk, independent. So he was drawing on the powers. I see him rapping to his Ukrainian drill music, and just thoughts about Poland in general. Yeah, very nice country, very nice city of Wrocław. The people was very welcoming and nice. I had my goulash, as I told Base I would. He actually took my money. I had some vodka to down my sorrows. And yeah, it was a very good time, man. And I do recommend that that people go out there. And it's baking hot. It's 32 degrees hotter than England, and don't let what the British media say things and make you give you a perspective of a country. You've got to go there and experience it, and you'll be pleasantly surprised, as I have done on a few occasions of different countries I've visited. Yeah, very nice.
Okay, one quick thing actually I wanted to mention. So initially I was saying that Don Charles and Daniel Dubois, Frank, like no one was complaining at the time of when this low blow, body shot, hybrid, whatever went in. But to be fair, there's a piece of footage that I did play, the one where he actually showed the angle where it rises the trunks and everything and he goes down. There's an extended part of that footage, and in the background you can kind of hear Don Charles. You can kind of see him in the corner, and then in the background you kind of hear him saying like ref. I can't quite hear what he says after that, but it does look like he's motioning to say that that was fine, like what's going on. So I will give him that. After he went on TalkSport, I definitely wanted to check to see if that was the case, and in that footage it does appear like he is gesturing to the referee. So I wanted to put that out there. Now, yeah, after that, round 5, Usyk, basically, yeah, he avoids the majority of Daniel's work at that point, but Daniel starts to get aggressive, starts to get a bit front foot heavy, and he starts targeting the body. At a couple of occasions at that time as well, he also, again, was hitting quite low in the protector. But I think the referee was at this point kind of monitoring it. But Usyk's managing to escape, managing to get around the guard a little bit. And he's just basically backpedaling. And I think it just at one point there, it's almost like either Daniel's, I don't even know whether it was just a case of Usyk just hit him with something which stopped in his tracks, or Daniel just like let up and he just kind of stopped throwing, almost like, oh well, I can't catch him, or I can't hit him clean, he won't stand still. It's almost like he was just begging for him to stand still. He thought that shot was going to mean that Usyk can't go nowhere and I can just basically tee off on him. But yeah, as you said, Usyk actually then came back and won the rest of the round with some very almost every jab he threw. There wasn't very many like just flashing jabs. They were actually quite. He was poking that stick, and it looked like he was definitely trying to set up the stick, hurt him with the stick so he can bring the backhand in. And then ultimately, right towards the end of the round, we see as he's got Daniel backing up along the side of the ropes, he throws that backhand from basically the back of the ring and catches Daniel heavily. And Daniel staggers and he stumbles backwards, but because he's along the ropes, I feel like he manages to keep his composure, and the Usyk goes for the attack, and eventually the bell manages to obviously save Daniel for that particular moment. Round 6. Now this is actually the only round I gave Daniel Dubois. Now I say that it still quite easily could have been a swing round. It could have gone to Usyk. The reason I gave it to Daniel is even though Usyk landed more shots, it wasn't a huge amount more, but Daniel's shots were visibly like changing Usyk's behavior in the ring. So whereas Usyk was maybe landing a shot here or there, Daniel was doing well, kind of deflecting some. But every time he would sweep onto either the body or he would catch Usyk sort of up top in the chest, like it was visibly. I'm not saying Usyk was wincing and folding over, but you could tell that he was like Daniel was actually now controlling Usyk's momentum, even though he was still getting outlanded and occasionally backed off. So I kind of gave him that round just off of that, but it was tight. Like if someone said, yeah, Daniel's got that, Usyk's got that round for me, I wouldn't have argued. I said, I can't really argue with you. But then round 7 comes and Usyk has this very good trait where if you get success or you best him in a round, he makes sure that you never get to win 2 in a row. And that's basically what we saw in round 7. He came out again behind the jab, like fencing, doing the ones, making Daniel have to concentrate on it. And then he started to capitalize. Daniel was still trying to go to the body a little bit, but at this point, Usyk is he's caught the measure of him. And then towards the end of the round again is when he starts to turn up the pressure, bang, bang, bang. And then the two of them actually do an exchange at the end of, I think it's at the end of the 7th round when, no, it was the end of the 6th round when the two of them basically threw punches after the bell. Usyk threw the first punch after the bell and Daniel retaliated and actually looked like it almost wobbled Usyk, not wobbled him like it hurt, like he was on Queer Street, but almost a case of, oh, I wasn't expecting you to do that kind of thing. Almost like it put Usyk back in check. So that's why when he came out in the 7th, I think he felt almost disrespected, like, how dare you throw after I throw kind of thing. And then that's when the 7th round happened. Now, funnily enough, the 8th round is very weird to me because the 8th round was a Dubois round. Up until the point when he actually got knocked down or took the knee or whatever we're going to say, he was winning that round. He was having a lot of success and some nice body work. I think he threw 1 or 2 shots up top that caught Usyk square in the jaw, that Usyk firmed. He's got a good chin. I give him that. One thing he does have is a good chin. Whether he's got a fragile body or not, his head is fine. He's got but Daniel was pressing forward. He was having Usyk backing up. Usyk like he was slowing down a little bit. He was getting him to the body. Usyk like he was visibly disturbed by a couple of these. Obviously, he's exchanging as well, making sure that it's a bit level between the two. But Daniel was really going for it. Really had some success. Then all of a sudden, about a minute to like the last minute of the round, Usyk then just turns the screw, busts that angle, hits that pivot. All of a sudden hits him with a solid jab, at the side of his face, back in that same eye where he's been targeting from round 1 up until this point. Catches him. He manages to push Daniel back towards Usyk's corner, and he catches Daniel with a sweeping body attack. He catches him. It's like a check hook to the body above the guard. So it's clearing the pit of Daniel. It's clearing in the pit of Daniel's stomach, right in his his abs. But that all of a sudden it's like Daniel stopped throwing from that point. He didn't even try and counter. It's like he stepped off. He stepped back. He tried to then throw a jab afterwards, in which case Usyk stepped to the side of that jab, and then he threw a shot over the top. And then he caught one sort of cuffing shot with Daniel, came back with the right hand, and I think he may have hit. He grazed him with the top of the glove, but then also I think a little piece of the wrist caught Daniel as well. And then as Daniel sort of staggered back, he caught him with another shot, sort of grazing off the top of the head with the left hand. And then ultimately, when Daniel was halfway down trying to keep his composure, that's when he caught him with that little sneaky right. It was a sneaky left hook, which again didn't look like the cleanest of shots, but at that point that was enough where Daniel was staggering about and then eventually went down to 2 knees. So yeah, he gets up and then the round's over. And then in round 9, it's almost like he came out initially and tried to attack, but at that point I think Usyk is like, nope, nothing you're going to try right now is going to work. And then Usyk just basically pushed him, started bullying him around the ring, like showing the bigger guy that I'm the guy in this moment. He just started turning up the pace. Daniel just like he was getting befuddled. Which way did he go? Which way did he go? That's literally what it felt like. And he pinged him from the left. Then he moves over, pings him from the right, and and then Daniel's trying to get away. He's trying to get a break. and every time he's backing up, normally you'd think, okay, you back up, you can get some range, but every time you back up, Usyk would step in with him and catch him with something else. And then ultimately, when Daniel ended up right near the ropes, you see Usyk just move slight off to the side and launch that straight right jab, and it was a power jab. It was definitely a power jab because you hear the connection it made. And Daniel was obviously leaning forward into it at the time, which just obviously doubled it up a little bit. Legs went down, but he was clear, lucid, looked at his corner. Now, if you listen to TalkSport, they basically say, he says he got up and he could have continued, and then the Don Charles basically takes the rap for him. He says, no, he's looking at me. I told him, stay down, compose yourself. And then as soon as I said up, that's when he got up, but we timed it a little bit too late. He said, I can't blame the ref because ultimately he's making the choice. He sees his eyes, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, in that particular moment, I'm sorry, he knows by the laws of the British Association, which is what he's only ever competed in apart from the Trevor Bryan fight. He knows realistically you must be up by 8, ready to fight again by 9, or you get counted out. This ain't your territory to then be thinking that you're going to get that 9.45, 9.56 second and you can start rising at that point and be able to beat the 10 count. It's not even your ends. You don't do that. So clearly you knew, based on your own knowledge of the BBBOC rules on how those referees operate, you need to be on your feet by the count of 9 at the absolute latest. You weren't there, which ultimately means you didn't really want to continue. You might say, oh, I could have continued. Yeah, you could have, but you know what would have happened if you did? You would have ended up back on the canvas again, because at that point you was already getting befuddled, and Usyk's put you down twice. At this point, he's not even going to care about what you're throwing back. He's going to start loading up properly on them shots. And I think, truthfully, you kind of realize, okay, these shots are starting to hurt more than they was before. I'm tired. I don't think I can win this anymore. I don't even think I've got that puncher's chance again. It's not my night. And I think that's how it came across to me. Now, I could be totally wrong. And if any of them are watching, feel free to, you know my channel, leave a comment. You got my email address, you got my number, or you can find my number, call me. But that was an act of submission right there. And in the biggest fight of your life, that to me is not a good sign, because that ultimately means that there's nothing that can stop you from basically, as Tony Belly would say, spewing it. There's nothing, because this is a chance for three of the 4 belts for you to almost be crowned as the king of the division, to make more money than you've ever made before moving forward. And you decided that taking that knee and staying down on that knee and looking at your corner was more important than getting up and trying to land another Hail Mary blow. Because if you think the blow in the 5th round was legal and legit, well, then you've got the ability to do it. So try and find it again. You're going to have to take shots. You've been taking shots for the last 8-9 rounds, so you're going to be taking shots. Do it again. Find a way to do it again.
He should know how to do it, because that's essentially what you do training camp for. Your training camp is designed so you're working with southpaws, and the southpaws are told, do what Usyk does. So that's what he should know. He should know, if I get that success in the body, what got me there the first time, repeat.
And also, with regards to that, there's another thing that I want to add. You see, when they say Usyk's team cheated and whatnot, or they're upset with the call that the referee made. Unfortunately, now, again, if they feel they're hard done by this, I'm not going to bemoan them, because, as I said, we see so many infractions. The rules sometimes get muddied with what is deemed appropriate. As I said, and where I made my driving analogies, that's probably the perfect examples, right? But throughout the entire time, every interview that Daniel done, and they said, we're going to rough him up. We're going to make it an uncomfortable fight. We're going to clinch. We're going to hold. We're going to throw him about. He's a cruiserweight. We're going to put it on him. We're going to stick it on him. Ultimately, you're telling them and the commissions that you're going to, if not be dirty, be very close to it, because you can't box with him. So you've got to do other things to basically break him down and break his spirit. So ultimately, when those shots start coming in from the first round, and there were legitimate shots that were straying low. Remember the one that he threw and which hit Usyk in his bottom, like that's very, very low. And then the other shots, the one that angled straight down into his crotch as well. We saw all of those shots coming through. So you see all of that. The refs obviously Usyk's gesturing, the refs saying, okay, keep it up. You've got all of that. And he did. Yes, you're right, Daniel Day. He did try to headbutt Usyk. I think that was in the 7th or the 8th round when he did that. But you all of this stuff there, you've said I'm gonna rough him up, blah blah blah. So none of that is technically within the rules of boxing, right? So you say you're gonna do all of this. So now the other team, the team that is actually running the event, are hearing you say this. They've probably even told the referee this is what he's looking to do. So you're not gonna get any grace with anything that's gone on. I mean, to be fair, you're probably lucky that you didn't get a point taken away for the foul, even if it's accidental or whatever, because it's like they've seen there's a pattern of you trying to go or stray to a certain area, which we already know probably isn't where you're supposed to go. So you've done that consistently, and now you've actually hit him there full force. You very easily could have got a point taken off of you at that particular point. So the fact you didn't get that, it shows that there wasn't being that biased towards you or showing, no consideration to you whatsoever. But ultimately, sometimes I think you just need to watch what you say before the fight. If those were your tactics, you should have never been telling people that, oh, well, all we can do is rough him up. That's how we're going to win this fight. Because then, as I said, they're going to be looking for that. And every single time something happens, they're gonna moan. Same with the whole Lawrence Okoli holding situation. Every single time he got anywhere near Chris Williams, ref, he's holding, so that he can't do it, or he gets points taken away. So that's maybe what the team needs to work on moving forward as well. Not giving up the game plan, or at least not telling people the true game plan. Because if you remember in the interview with me, he actually said, "Oh, I'm going to actually prove that like he's not that much of a better boxer than me." He actually, and that's why in those first couple of rounds, immediately I knew that he was gonna lose, or I knew he was gonna lose anyway. From he said to me that in the interview, I specifically wanted to see what he'd say with regards to that. He said, "No, I don't want people thinking that I can't box." So as soon as he said that, I knew he's gonna try that, and he's just gonna get taken apart. Sorry, Danny, go ahead.
The team need to have more discretion within their tactics if they're looking to use some underhand tactics and, as Tunde says, roadman science.
And Daniel was literally giving the game plan away in every single interview. It's almost like he was being prepped on what to say, and at no point did he think, actually, maybe that's not the right thing. Like, should I really be telling people what my game plan is? Like, because everyone always says you'll see on the night, right? That's normally what they tell you. No, he's telling you everything. Hey, he's a little man. I'm just going to throw him about. I'm going to rough him up. I'm going to show him he's a cruiserweight. He's a heavyweight. Like, I'm going to stick it on him. Like, I mean, you don't do that. And then, the fact is, if you do it, okay, so now man's training for you to do exactly that. So now he's prepared for your dirty tactics, quote unquote. And yeah, anyway. The stream's gone on way too long. I was supposed to bounce an hour ago, but
no. Listen, there are some people who actually talk the talk and walk the walk. The one that I think of immediately is Derek Chisora. He tells you what he's going to do, and he does it.
But to be fair, Derek don't change. Like Derek does the same thing all the time. So
yeah. Sorry. So I must, with great haste,
super chat,
thank to G Chain for the very charitable donation. Thank you, G Chain. We love you immensely, even though we sometimes disagree on things. We appreciate that you are always there, my brother. Great show, my bros. Balanced arguments from both sides. Big up Tony, Danny, and Base. Respect. Yeah, boy. I mean, you kind of talk for England there, really, Base. I kind of feel like.
Yeah, I had to be very detailed because you didn't give no detail whatsoever.
You were.
Also,
so remember, it's called the breakdown, not the discussion. Like,
also, guys, sorry, before I do,
go ahead.
Also, big up Base because he helped me get my international accreditation for me to be able to provide interviews and content throughout the fight week. Yeah, so very much helpful. It was a struggle, but hey, Base kept pushing. I was like, hey man, what's going on, man? It's a couple of days. Am I gonna get in? No. But hey, Base used some of the speech I've been saying in persistence. Beat the resistance. So yeah, love every time.
It was the dark arts of negotiation, but I was happy to do it. Like I said, obviously for people who don't know, like me, as much as we weren't quite friends at the start, I know Danny never remembers this, but we've known each other since secondary school. So it's yeah, there's a bond there. Anytime I can help out, I will do, and it's the same with him. Like there's been a couple of times he's gone to the trenches for me on certain situations, which we won't necessarily talk about here. And it's always love, it's always appreciated. So yeah, anytime I can help him and help his channel and all that, I'm gonna do it. And the same is true in reverse.
So without going any further now, we appreciate that everyone has stayed in the chat, talking about Danny and his channel. Guys, at the bottom of the screen now, you can see all of the socials for Danny. They are somewhat different. So yes. Dan, do you want to just
it's Fight Fan TV Live on YouTube and Instagram. Those are the main places. Instagram is the big place. He drops all of the news on all the content first there. You get all of the breaking scoops. He's one of the best at it, and he's one of the quickest. And Twitter is Danny Savvy, right? Obviously you can see it spelled across. I don't know. He uses the Twitter not as necessarily as much as the Instagram, but tell them about what you do.
Yeah, so what is Twitter? I made that account initially to just watch news basically. I wasn't even typing, I wasn't even posting. So yeah, but now I've started to get a bit active on there. But that's Danny Savvy, right? But really, make sure you subscribe to Fight Fan TV Live on YouTube and Fight Fan TV Live on Instagram, because that's where I post the main news and the content for the fight fans to enjoy on boxing, some MMA, UFC content as well. But 90% of it is boxing. Also, big up Sean O'Malley. I knew he was going to beat Aljamain Sterling last weekend as well. I was torn between. Obviously, I wanted to support the yard man, but his style is very negative. So he snuck up in the end anyway. But that's another story.
All right, Tony, cool. Give them your socials.
Let's get to me. So yeah, I'm Pugilistboy on Twitter and YouTube. Pugilistboy on Instagram.
And as for me, obviously, you guys, most of you I think are following my channel now. If not, please make sure you subscribe tonight. BaseDaKID, the hardcore casual. Literally just type that in YouTube and I show up. I think you could just type in BaseDaKID now. I think I've hit the nice algorithms where my name just trends, which is cool. I like that. On Instagram, it's BaseDaKID, but again, don't go to Instagram if you're looking for boxing stuff, because that's just me doing my day-to-day. You might see a couple things in stories every now and again, but that's just these days, that's just me to actually just scroll the pictures and just like and then go about my business. The main place you catch me active apart from YouTube is definitely on Twitter. And you can just type in BaseDaKID and I am the first one that shows up. Again, algorithms doing it bits. But if you want to type it in properly, it's B_A_S_E. And you'll get me with all my spicy takes on there. Bit of fun, bit of joke. And I am someone that, you know, will in fact back my chat. I will do it in front of people if I have to. And there have been loads of people that I don't like who will come in front of me around other people, and I will still keep the same energy and not engage with them just because they're there. And that's just how I am as a person. So anything that I ever say, if it offends you or you want to create issues, obviously there's always the comments. There's comments on my videos. There's obviously replying on Twitter, and you can see me out and about. I'm at most boxing shows these days as well, whether I'm in media sections or I'm paying for it myself. I'm there. I'm not hard to find. We can have a conversation at any time. It's all good. I'm going to keep the Monday Night Smoke politics away from this. But those of you who know, you guys obviously saw what happened and you know what I'm about if it really gets down to it. So, yeah. With that being said, we are now we're going to close off the stream because I should have left this house like an hour ago. But peace and love to everyone who's watching. Thank you very much for watching, and we will catch you next week. Danny, thank you very much for coming on. Salute to you. And hopefully next week there should be a well, we may have a very special guest on, but talk about that more. So yeah, big ups and peace out.